Oh, here we go. The biggest man I know, powerful Juan Adams. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right, dude. You're in Albuquerque right now.
Yeah. I moved out here, moved from a two-bed, two-bath in River Oaks to a studio apartment in Albuquerque to
Okay.
focus more on training out here. So I live in one of the apartments in the gym. It's pretty interesting.
I like it, man. Dude, Albuquerque's great. We were just there for a snowboarding
Oh
trip,
yeah,
and Albuquerque
I froze.
is it's a great place to just go clear your mind. It is awesome.
Yeah, for sure. It really is, man, because there's not a whole lot to do out here. There's
Hmm.
enough, but it's not Houston by any stretch of the imagination. And sometimes it's cool to just go drive
We're here with
late at
Juan.
night and go find a spot at the base of a mountain.
Check in with Juan real quickly. I think Juan, can you hear me? I think you were having some trouble here with the connection. Let me see.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's going in and out sometimes, but it should be all right.
Yeah. Hey, Juan, try reconnecting here
Alrighty, hold on. Let me close some.
for me.
Let's close some of these tabs out. There we
Yeah,
go.
try that, and then yeah, let's keep it in portrait mode like that. Maybe it might be a little bit easier, and we'll get it going.
All right, how's that? Maybe I'm
That's
gonna
good. Let's
refresh
just
it
probably
real
hear
quick.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's still
So we're trying to get Juan Adams on. It looks like he's going to reconnect here. So if you have any questions for me as I do this live show, you can definitely ask, and we can get this going. We're going to try Juan Adams one more time, see if we can connect with him. Going. Let's see. All right.
it's going in and
Yeah.
out. Let's see. Let's see.
Okay. Let's
All
test it out.
right. Yeah. Let me see. I'm opening up my laptop now. It's connected to the Wi-Fi. That might help a little bit with it. Let's see this.
If Juan. Okay, Juan. How
Yeah,
about
I
now?
can
Can you hear
hear
me?
you. We good?
Okay. That's yeah. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's try it. Let's give it a try here.
All
All
righty.
right, Juan,
Let's do
Juan is back
this.
on. There you go. He's out in Albuquerque, which I was saying, dude, I love Albuquerque. It's a fun place because you're right. There's not much to do there, but the things that are fun to do there, man, it just clears your mind.
Froze
Hikes, the drive.
again.
All
Hold
right,
on.
looks like yeah.
You there? Let's see something. I'm opening up a new
Hey,
tab. I'm gonna email myself this link, and we're gonna see if we can get this going a little bit.
okay, give it a try.
Let's see on the laptop.
All right, I'm gonna kick Juan out for a second. All right, kick from studio. Boom. Okay, so we're gonna work on getting Juan Adams back on here on the show. For those of you that are watching live, feel free to drop any comments or any questions, and we can definitely get the conversation going here. Really wanted to talk to Juan because he published an open letter regarding the racial injustice and him being a black man. He talked about how he thinks that this is something that we can slowly get to and fix here in the upcoming future. So I really want to chat with him about it and get his thoughts and get his insight on what he finds is the right path forward. And again, like he starts his whole letter off, which if you haven't read it yet, you can find it on his Facebook page. I'm going to link to it as well. He starts the whole thing off by saying, this isn't everyone's opinion. This is just my opinion, which is beautiful. He understands that just one
All right, we're
Everybody's
back
Juan
on.
on. Juan, can you hear me now? Let's see.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's these new streaming platforms takes up a lot of bandwidth,
I
but I
know.
think it's on my laptop, so it should be.
Okay. All right. I think we're good. So yeah, we got Juan Adams. He's out in Albuquerque. You moved from River Oaks to Albuquerque, man. That's an adjustment right there, bro.
It is quite the adjustment, but I actually love it, man. I had a roommate earlier, and now I never thought I'd be happy in such like a small living space, but it's pretty dope. Like I'm on my couch right now. You can see my bed's right behind me.
Yeah.
Got my little pet fish, Wuhan, back there. He chilling. You're just doing it, man. I'm
and
really
it, it's
happy.
and you're happy, man. So we start every episode with the same 5 questions with a guest. So let's get this going. Number one, Juan, what is one song you wish everybody would listen to at least once in their life?
Definitely Eye to Eye from a Goofy movie. It's a great song. One of the greater soundtracks in Disney history.
Okay, I like that. Eye to Eye from the Goofy soundtrack. I wasn't
Yep.
expecting that one today, but here we are. That's why I love that question. You never know what you're going to get. Okay, number two, what is one thing that you have to have in your fridge at all times?
Ooh, for me, it's pineapple juice, man. I love fruit juices. Pineapple just gets me there. It's on a different level. It's my favorite fruit juice for sure.
Now, are you drinking it before training or during training?
Yeah, I usually try and wake up every morning and have a little bit of it during fight camp. It's one of the few fruit juices I can still drink. It's a hard cut for me to get to 265. I have to be pretty on top of my diet when I do that, and so during camps, it's definitely up there a lot more. I actually probably drink more pineapple juice than I do Gatorade.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you walk around at?
Oof. Well, thanks to COVID, I was walking around about 305, 310, but typically I walk around the in the 292 range.
Okay, that's not too bad. Then that cut happens, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. What is one place you want to visit that you haven't had a chance to yet?
Oof. Definitely Niagara Falls.
Oh man, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You want to go to the Canadian side or the American side?
I want to go to the Canadian side, man. I love Canada. It was my second UFC fight was in Canada, and I loved it over there.
Dude, Niagara Falls is wild because you drive in from the Canadian side. We were in Toronto when we did this trip, and it's a 2 hour drive. It's really like the drive is whatever, but when you get there, it's just this little. It's like almost like a carnival town. It is, please believe it or not, Hershey's Chocolate Factory, like all these carnival stores to me, and then you get out and you suffer, and
Hold on.
all the and it takes you right up to the falls, and then across and you've got something so moving, and then you've got this trash ass town right there. Man, it's amazing. The Canadian side is wild to me. I'm like, what is happening here, man?
Yeah, Canada was like that. My favorite.
Number four,
What's number four?
who is one person alive that you want to meet and have coffee with?
Barack Obama for sure.
Dang, dude, this is 3 in a row for former President Barack Obama.
He just seems like a cool dude. He just got the swag, man. You can't teach that.
Okay, all right, we'll go with Barack Obama. 3 in a row, man. Number five, what is one app that you want to delete from your phone, but you just can't do it?
Oof. Facebook for sure. It was I just like went through a breakup, so that was rough seeing it on Facebook all the time. And then obviously social media apps in general. It's especially in a time like this when there's such this big shift towards social awareness and injustices and things like that. To go on there and still see And it's not just a millennial thing. It's Gen X, Y, Z, millennials, all that. It's
Hmm.
just the sheer amount of attention-seeking behavior on there. It just gets old. For the longest, you have to participate in my line of work. My job is to garner and create attention for myself, but it's such a big disconnect from who I am as a person versus who I have to be online. Sometimes it's a pain.
So when you got when you started
Hold on.
a little bit muck from somebody, or did you just naturally see like, man, you know what, I'm gonna have to play this game because as you
Hold on.
attention as you almost have to do it. You have to do social media.
There, I have the switched Wi-Fi. Is it better now?
Oh yeah, it's a lot better. Let's see. We'll give this a try.
Okay. So
Okay.
yeah, it's something I recognized that I had to do from the jump. Right when I started MMA was when Conor McGregor was just making huge waves, doing everything. And for me, it started so much as more of a means to sell tickets. Before you get to the UFC, that's how you make money. You get 20% of your ticket sales. So I used my social media to get people to buy tickets, make people interested in me, the person who is Juan Adams, and I've taken on many different personalities across my social medias as time went on. But now, you know, at one point, that's how you get sponsors and everything. And as in the beginning stage of your career, sponsors can make or break you. And no, so when I was making most of my income from social media, it was hard to constantly do these things. You have 3 or 4 sponsors and you have to do it all once a week
Hmm.
for each of them, or every 2 weeks or once a month, whatever it takes. It gets draining. But seeing that, I recently, for my last fight camp, I had a social media guide, and he kind of just told me to pick a few messages and really stay on brand with those messages. And now that I don't generate any revenue from my social media, I get to pick those messages and really align with things that I actually care about. So it's not so much about money anymore, because it's very hard to portray a message of something that's important to you that
Hmm.
the company doesn't see a return on their bottom line or a return on investment for. So it's sucks because I'm not making that money anymore, but it's also really liberating because I can post what I want, how I want to, and really say things that I feel make a difference.
Yeah, it's so hard. People will always, especially in the culture that we're in, the few folks that have made it, it's almost the message is like, I keep it real and I say what I want and I don't care. Damn the sponsors. But it's funny when you're on your way up, there is some of that like, dude, you know what is nice? I would love this money. And you know what? If that means I have to sacrifice saying a few things, a lot of people that I know, hell, I've done it a few times. I'm not going to lie, working in radio, sometimes you have to filter what you say to play that game a little bit. And
Right.
we get the message, growing up, like, F the system, we're going to do it our way. And then when you get involved in it, you're like, damn, you know what? For the time being, I'm just.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just got to bite that bullet at
Hmm.
times. I remember, whew, what was it? I used to do this thing where I would like talk about my poops every morning on my Instagram. And, I had a sponsor who was just like, yeah, you got to stop that. But like, it was just funny to me because so many people enjoyed that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's just what I think about while I'm taking a crap. It's not that big of a deal. But, a lot of
Juan,
people were upset when I couldn't do it anymore.
yeah. Juan, it looks like we're still having a little, we're having a few issues here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. There's a lag sometimes, so if
Yeah.
there's that on there, I might message you and ask you to repeat the question. But It's going a lot smoother than when I was using the dorm Wi-Fi.
Okay, perfect. So we'll keep it going. We'll see how long we can go before it wipes out again. So, um, okay. So one of the things that I wanted to hit on, and the reason I brought you on is one, I think you're a cool dude. It's so awesome to see you progress in your career. But you wrote a really insightful, open letter regarding everything that's going on in our country with the police brutality, with the movement of Black Lives Matter. Again, it's like, fast forward, it's like we're doing this every freaking year. It's like, come on, can we solve it this time? And you wrote a really insightful open letter and you laid out some actual solutions that you feel like could help fight
Yeah.
racial injustice, right? And I love it. From the top, you said, this is my opinion. This is my belief from what I've seen in life. This isn't about, hey, this is the solution, everybody take it, and I want to be the leader of this movement. It's just your side and your point of view. And I love that, man. Like, I don't think we get enough of that where people just go from, hey, this is my journey. Okay. I'm not trying to solve everyone's problem, but I think here's a good way to do it. What made you want to write it first and foremost?
Yeah, first and foremost, as a young, black male with a fledgling, like I have a small following. It's small considered compared to some other people, large compared to many others. But I have this platform. I'm a verified account, and people look at that, and for me, a lot of people were coming to me asking me, well, what do you think the solution is, or what would you do? How would you handle this? Like, or there's other people like, I don't understand why are black people so upset about X, Y, Z. And for me, I took the approach I did with it because I'm not a spokesperson for my entire race. I'm a representative of it just due to the how I was born, right? It automatically makes me a representative of that, but it doesn't mean that my thoughts echo that of every black person in America, every person of color in America. So I wrote that from that point of view, just listing my experience because I saw a lot of similarities between myself and George Floyd. He's a 6'6" black male that grew up in the same neighborhood that I'm from. So it really hit home, and it was really one of those moments where it's like, man, that could have easily been me. You change one or two factors in my life, and then that could have been me. And that hurts, and that's hard to look at. And it made me pretty emotional about a lot of things. But also, I kind of wrote that letter because in an answer to the influx of messages that I was getting myself.
And when you posted the letter, immediately it gets picked up by some of the national MMA websites, and now it's, exposed to even more people. Before we get into the actual letter itself, because I do want to go through some of the points and talk about them because there's some really insightful stuff there. Um, what was the feedback like for you online once that letter started gaining a little bit more traction, not only from your Facebook page, but as I mentioned, some of the national sites started picking it up? What was the feedback like for you?
For me, it was overwhelmingly positive. You're always going to have a naysayer here or there. I do my best not to label all those naysayers in one group. I try not to generalize people as much now. And my thing is, if you come at me with ignorance, all I can do is provide information right now. And that's what most of the feedback has been like. Thank you so much for vocalizing and verbalizing what it is that I'm feeling right now. I'm so happy that somebody could put it on paper and express that. Because there's a lot of people that feel the same way that might not be as educated as me, might not have had the tools at their disposal that I have, don't have the platform that I have, and can't reach the same audience that I can. So I was very happy with that, and most people were very happy and thought it was, a very well written and insightful thing, and it wasn't just a snap reaction. Um, that's what you run into a lot of trouble with that in the era we live in now, especially. It's a sensationalized. Everything is sensationalism, right? You go for that catchy headline. You go for the quick reaction. People want that raw, unedited, unfiltered emotion, And that's not always the best solution for things. That doesn't really generate good dialogue. And that's where everything has to start, with that dialogue, with those uncomfortable conversations, with acknowledging that, hey, while things might be great for me, there's a really big group of people out there that it's not okay with, and that things are not good for right now.
Let's go through the actual points themselves now. You said to fight racial injustice, it's going to be on three fronts, and the first one is the individual level. Expand on that a little bit.
Right. So the individual level is that's the human to human interaction level, right? That's me to you, speaking to your peers, and also like how one carries themselves, right? That individual level for me, my whole life was, when I was exposed to this stuff, I was just like, well, okay, this person has this generalized idea of how someone like me is supposed to behave and act. I have to try that much harder to become the exception to that. And maybe through an interaction with me, that person will be like, hey, maybe not all these people are like that. Maybe there are more people like him out there.
Mm-hmm.
So and then there's also, how you respond to individual conflict. I can easily go out here and anytime I disagree with someone, cuss them out, or say you're an idiot, label them ignorant, label them a racist, say all these things to them. And that interaction creates a precedent for them. And then they go into each following interaction thinking, well, I have to stifle how I think and feel now because I don't want to be called X, Y, or Z. So that level, I mean, we have to be a lot more open with each other and willing to have those conversations without judgment all the time.
Mm-hmm.
If you can go into a conversation with the idea of, I want to reach understanding, as opposed to I want to prove a point, as opposed to I want to win this interaction, that's where real progress is made. That's where real growth happens.
It's so funny that winning the conversation thing that has taken over our lives in the social media world, and then carry some of that energy out into your normal interactions. It really has devastated the whole listening portion of conversations. Like just listening, understanding other people's point of view, understanding what their journey is, without trying to dunk on them, trying to
Yeah,
to let them know like, oh yeah, but my journey is this, or yeah, but there's somebody else out there. That's really, to me, has devastated everything. We have to do a better job of listening to each other and taking the time to learn about each other, because that's how as you mentioned, that's how we improve these individual relationships, and hopefully it creates now this chain reaction of positive interactions that they have with other people that might look like you or look like me.
exactly. And and that's really hard, especially when it's a burden for a lot of people that were in the same position as me, being not only a minority in general, but a minority in your environment. At every school I went to, I feel like the black population there was less than 10%.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in college it was a little bit higher than that, because obviously it was a Division I college. So most of our football team, all of our basketball team, and a lot of our wrestling team were, minorities and African American.
And you went to Strake, right? You're
Yes, yes. I graduated from Straight Jesuit, and I think at the time I went there, we were at about either 7% or right at 10%. And
mm-hmm.
in my class of 220 or so, I believe there were 22 black students in my class, and graduated. They graduated. I feel like it was less than 20. It might have been right at 20 that
Wow.
graduated.
And the rest of it, there's probably another small percentage of other minorities, and the rest is overwhelmingly white, right? In
Yeah,
that in Strake, which is a prep academy. Where'd you go to college?
Virginia Military Institute.
Okay, so over there, it might have been a little bit different, but it's like, the people that you come across at Strake, even in college, I would hope now, because you're younger than me. I would hope now it's not like, oh man, oh yeah, he's the black guy. It's just, oh yeah, that's Juan. You would hope that the interaction is now he's just a person. It's not, oh, that's a black guy or a brown guy or a Pakistani guy or whatever. Was it like that for you in college or was it different?
It was very different. Well, the thing with Strake also is it's very root, or not Strake, Virginia Military Institute. It's one of those places that's very rooted in tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Prime example, when you're a freshman, there's only one entrance that you can use there. You're referred to as a rat. You're the first 6 or 7 months of school there, and you don't have any privileges. You wear a uniform every day. It's a very military. It's a military college. You have to enter through one arch. There's 6 different entrances in the barracks, I believe, but there's only one that you can use as a freshman. And outside of that arch is a giant statue of Stonewall Jackson, and you have to salute it every time you exit
Hmm.
barracks. And so for me, that's just one aspect of it. But when you're there, there's a divide at the school between people there for sports and people there that are there for the school for the whole experience, right? So there's the athlete non-athlete divide.
Yeah.
Within that, there's also the divide of people that are hold rank within the system and privates, career privates in the system. If you don't apply for rank and you don't have any interest in rank, you're sometimes looked down upon. So there's three, they call it three legs to one stool. There's the athletic side, the academic side, and the military side of it. So then there's another divide at the school between those who are commissioning and those who are not, right? And when I was there, especially, there wasn't a lot of representation for. Obviously, each of those groups has positive and negative connotations. There was a vastly underwhelming presence of minorities in the lights that were held positive.
Mm.
So, as a minority there, sometimes or as an athlete there, you're looked at as someone that doesn't really care about the system, doesn't care about the deep traditions of the school. And that may or may not be true, but that's the overwhelming stigma attached to being a black athlete at BMI.
What does commissioning mean?
Commissioning means you're going to join the military afterwards. So to commission into to be a commissioned officer in any of the military force, you have to have a college degree, and
Okay.
you have to go through an ROTC program, or you can do officer candidacy school once you get your degree. And at VMI, you're required to be participate in an ROTC for 4 years. There, you have to have 4 years of ROTC and ROTC labs. Your first 2 years there, everyone is treated as if they're commissioning. After your second year, you can decide whether you want to go the commissioning route or the non-commissioning route. There's other programs you can do where you can enlist there and then commission after you graduate, but you can enlist there to get some type of financial aid through your ROTC, but you're an active member of that military branch if you go that route.
Wow, man, that's tough. Yeah, I can see how that would cause a divide with people there that are trying to go down the commission route. And if you're an athlete, you want to do your stuff, and maybe you do end up doing it. But man, I can totally see why that is such a big divide there, man. That's crazy. So
Right.
that brings me to the next one, the institution. Point number two for you. Talk a little bit about that one.
Right. So institutionalized, the institutional aspect of it is something it's like a buzzword now. It's said a
Mm-hmm.
lot. Not a whole lot of people understand what it means, but it's not just government, the institution of government. It's schools, it's businesses, it's anything that's not on a strictly individual level. That's what an institution is. And the institutional aspect, my biggest thing there, the overlapping thing is representation in all of this, right? You become like me as a black man, I'm a representation of, or I'm a representative of my race, whether I want to be or not. That's a burden that I can't just shirk completely. So when you're when to fight it on an institutional level, one, you have to create the dialogue there. There has to be acknowledged that there is a disconnect and that there is a problem, right? as of I believe either 2019 or 2020 census, I believe Black people make up 30.4% of the United States. We do not make up 30.4% of government.
Mm-mm.
We don't make up 30.4% of the police force. We don't make up 30.4% of really any powerful group of people. We don't make up 30.4% of. Obviously in your music industry and the athletics industry, we're almost overrepresented there, but that doesn't hold true power. That
Yeah.
doesn't have power to elicit a change in anything. And that's where a big portion of this battle is going to be fought. And it doesn't just start at government. If you go somewhere, if you're in a neighborhood that doesn't necessarily have a great schooling system, and that's one of the first things you look for, right? When you have a family, when you're picking a spot to live, what do you think of? School
School.
district,
Yeah.
right? Well, if you go to a predominantly Black area, the there's not an overwhelming presence of good school districts that are predominantly Black, and so that leads to a subpar education. When those people don't get a good education, it limits their ability to get into institutes of higher learning. And if you're not at an institute of higher learning, there's also the social aspect there where you're not building those connections. You're not building those
Mm-hmm.
bonds that are going to get you into, city office or, state office, regional office, things like that. So that's furthering that gap. It's furthering that divide, and it all falls under the institution, right? So if you're not getting access to that level of education, to those same opportunities, then you're not going to be aware of it. And so that further leads to the lack of representation and the lack of presence of minorities in these positions of power.
Yeah.
So that's the institutional level of it.
It's so sad to see the lack of funding in certain neighborhoods for our education system. And you mentioned in your story that you were lucky enough to go the route of getting a great education, getting onto the next level. But a lot of people from where you come from, it's impossible. Like that cycle is hard to break. And this is one of the big things. Like, yes, police brutality. We need to end that. We need to fix that system because again, the cycle starts in many places. I know it doesn't make sense, but the cycle starts in so many places where you enter that circle and now you're a part of it. But the education one, the lack of funding, the way that districts are drawn up, the way the funding is provided, and it's based on a system where you have to take this quiz every 10 years where it's like, dude, we're really going to base that much of our budget because of this census? We can't do this every 5 years. We can't reevaluate things. We can't look at it, on a year-to-year basis. It's sad, man. It sucks, and it's something that I was lucky enough to come up through a great education system in Fort Bend ISD and all that, and I was lucky. But again, this is a big thing where I'm telling everyone else, my friends, is like, this is what it's not about us. It's not about us, but we're fighting this because we want to make sure everybody has this opportunity that we had, that we were lucky enough to get. And we're focusing on small things, but one of the big things here is, can we give this opportunity to everybody? And that's a point that a lot of people miss. And I love that you pointed it out in your letter.
Yeah, and and then that's a very tough topic to address because a lot of people don't want to admit the advantages that they've had.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I was extremely lucky because my mom went to great schools and she recognized the value of education from a very young age. So she had my brother and I tested. We got into a magnet program at Roberts Elementary. That program that doesn't exist anymore, but for us it did, and we capitalized on it. We then went to T.H. Rogers, which is another public school, but you have to apply to get into it, and it's all Vanguard and gifted and talented students at that school. And from there, if I hadn't gone to Roberts, I would have never known about T.H. Rogers. If I hadn't gone to
Mm,
T.H. Rogers, I would have never known about straight Jesuit. And, luckily, I've always tested well. I tested really well on the entrance exam for private high schools. So I got a very big scholarship to go to straight. And then my last 2 years there, a black alumni wanted to, help another black student at the school and provide tuition for that person. So I was extremely lucky in that sense. And then I got a scholarship in college. So, um, but like I said, that's a very, very small sample size, and
yeah.
it's very exceptional and almost miraculous that I was afforded those opportunities.
It's like that opportunity that you had should be open to every kid.
Right.
It should be open to every kid that you grew up with. They should get that opportunity, and it shouldn't be like, oh, you got to test in here. It's not like, hey, we got to filter these kids out. It's how can we
Including,
make it? Yeah, how can we include them and make it so that they're part of all of this? It's not just about filtering out the good ones. Let's open it up where it's for everybody. Let's see if that can help change things
yeah.
on a societal. It's so frustrating to see people not recognize that.
Yeah, and and that's one of those things that you can't come right out the bat, and that's why delivery and mode of communication is so important now, and that's why I worded things
Mm-hmm.
the way that I did and as carefully as I did because I had to rewrite that thing so many times because I didn't want to come off as overly militant in what I was saying and or too dramatic in what I was saying, but the sentiment was there and it needed to be communicated.
Let's talk about the social and cultural part now.
Right. So the social and cultural part, that this is probably the more delicate one to address because there's just so many different aspects of a society and culture. And one of the things that I've heard a lot that's been trending is like, people love black culture but don't like black people, right? The music, they love watching, the athletes doing these amazing things, and they love, you know, just the whole. Yeah, I mean, everyone knows it. Like, there's a certain type of mystique and fascination around black culture and really black excellence that's out there, but it it should be more so as like, wow, these people are awesome, not, oh, these black people are awesome.
Yeah.
So it's got to be, as a culture and as a society, we need to be more inclusive in everything, and we need to be more open to dialogue and able to have tough conversations about hard issues without taking them harshly. And that's very hard to do. That requires a lot of reflection, and it requires a lot of acknowledgement that a lot of people don't want to give.
Yeah. I talked to Eric Layden, who's an actor from Houston. He's in LA now. And we were talking about the Drew Brees story. And he made a really good point to me because I'm still upset, right? Like, because what Drew said to me, it was like, dude, you're dismissing everything that's happening with the protests and what happened with Colin Kaepernick. And then he issues an apology because he just gets destroyed on Twitter and his teammates and all that. And I'm going, dude, just double down. Just double down. If that's what you feel, go for it. But Eric brought up a really good point that you also brought up. Like, if we have these tough conversations, if we are listening, if we're going out of our way to listen, which is a big part of this, and then we reevaluate everything, we can't then come back and destroy the person for apologizing or for saying that, look, I was wrong. Like, you want people to change a little bit, right? And that was like, okay, dude, I was so wrong on my opinion about Drew Brees that, okay, yeah, that is the whole point, is let's listen. Let's try to change people's opinions. Let's try to change people's perspective of things. That's what we want to do on a certain level, on the social and cultural level.
Exactly. And and it's very hard to acknowledge when one is wrong. Um, Luckily for me, I've been wrong at many points in my life to where it's kind of just like, all right, yeah, whatever, I was wrong. Let's change it. I'm sorry that I hurt you in that way, and I don't want it to happen again. So that's, but not everybody's wired like that. Not
Right.
everybody wants what's best for everyone. There's all, people are selfish for good or bad reasons. That it's just the way the world is at times. But if we can, just start talking to understand as opposed to talking to win, I feel that that's really where real progress is made and real growth is, because growth isn't comfortable. And a lot, you're asking right now a lot of people to come from places of comfort to a place that's not very comfortable and could, negatively impact their quality of life, whether it's minuscule or not. A lot of people don't like change. A lot of people are okay with the status quo. The vast majority of people, it seems, would be okay with the status quo. But for the marginalized groups, we're not okay with it. And, you know, the silent protest didn't work. Going at it the way that the oppressors or the people in power wanted us to go about it didn't work. But, people started destroying property, and it instantly opened up the dialogue.
Yep.
So while I'm not out here breaking stuff. I'm not doing any of that. I've done a couple of marches with some people. I go to just kind of see where everyone's at, and the vast majority of people don't want to destroy things. But if they feel that's the only way that their voice is going to be heard, then that's what they're going to do.
And then, and of course, everyone has pointed this out so much. It turned into something that you're like, okay, what is happening? The looting, the destroying of the businesses. And then you find out, like, okay, there's a lot of outside forces at work here as well. It's not just, hey, a bunch of people were upset and now they come in and they're destroying property. Was there some of that? Yes, there was. Absolutely. Was there some of, outside involvement with other groups? Yes, there was. Like, I mean, the record shows it now, and it's so funny for a majority of the people. We get lost in this whole thing about social media. Everyone's on it. Not everyone's on social media. Not everyone's getting the information like we do on Twitter. On Twitter, immediately you see something, you go, "Oh my gosh, I hope this is wrong," or "I hope that something else is happening here." And you find out, yeah, there was other groups. Antifa's over here, coming in and making their message heard now and trying to destroy the system or whatever. And you find out on Twitter, but for somebody that's in that majority that is okay with the system, they're like, "Oh, look, it's all the black people. They're doing it." And it's like, no, 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 dude, there's other things happening here, but it's too late because they just got their news from somewhere and they're not going to follow up on this. And you're
Right.
fighting that battle as well. And I have to remind myself because, look, my dad, he's not on social media other than Facebook. And when he's on Facebook, he's not getting involved in political conversations. He's getting his news from that quick, news bite that he sees on CNN or whatever channel he's watching, and then that's it. And that's the news to him. There's no follow up anymore. And
Right.
it's like there's a fight on that front as well.
Yeah, and that ties into, your duty as a person. We live in an era where information is so readily available. There really is no excuse to be uninformed on anything that you want to have an opinion on. Period.
Yep.
But people don't want to be wrong. People don't want to admit that there's things that they don't know. So you you create that snap reaction, and then sometimes it's just like, well, this is what I said, and I'm going to stick to it. I mean, that's an extremely unhealthy way to go about life, and it's necrotic to progress. When you look at something, I've had to do this myself. Is kind of quell that snap reaction, that snap. F this, f that, that's stupid, whatever. And I have to go and do my own research and actually look into things. Check the sources, do things like that. And a lot of people don't even know how to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to read a scientific article. Same thing with statistics. I mean, I've seen so many statistics being brought up on, black on black crime, or, the percentage of black people committing violent crimes. And one guy was using, um, current numbers of crimes, but basing it off of the black population from 2014. And that doesn't, that, of course, you're going to get inflated numbers when it comes to that. And people
Man.
don't know how to look at a set of data, one, and recognize like who's conducting the study, the selection criteria for the data involved, and they don't know how to really infer their own information from the data.
Hmm.
A lot, even in the educated community, a lot of people just read the abstracts. I've done that. If I got a research paper due in 2 weeks, I'm not gonna read 15 different studies. I'm gonna read the abstracts of most of them. Might pick 4 or 5 to actually look into and discern what I want to say, and then I'm gonna pick things and manipulate the information and manipulate the way that I present the information to fit my narrative, and that's called confirmation bias. People do that a lot, and it's being done a lot, especially with the numbers being thrown out there right now. And when you want to bring things up like a black on black crime or things like that, what people fail to realize is crimes are committed by those that are in your vicinity. You know, if I need something and I think stealing is the only way to get it, I'm not going 2, 3 hours, or I'm not even going, 20, 30 minutes out of my way to steal something. I'm going to find the closest available thing. So that's where that, I mean, there's a lot more to delve into on that, but
Hmm.
that's where a lot of people I feel aren't really looking at the information rationally, and they don't know how to. And that's not on them. That's on how they were educated.
For you as a black man, the last 10 days or so, what has it meant, man?
You know, the one of the things that really stood out to me was that all 50 states have had some form of protest over this, and that's the first time in history. And it's a shift towards an awakening. It's a shift towards real progress for the first time ever. Really, I feel hopeful that some progress might come out of this. It wasn't one of those things where it was just swept under the rug. Every time it was tried to be forgotten, people said, no, 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 this is what happened. This was wrong. There needs to be a correction, and a lot of people are doing it. I have friends and followers from all over the world, and they're sending me their stories. They're sending me clips of the protests that aren't just going on in America. They're going on everywhere, and people are finally bringing this to light and finally acknowledging that, hey, there's a problem here, and for once, it's not just the minorities. And I think that that's extremely powerful.
That's the same thing. I was talking to Michael Pearson. He's a friend of mine out in L.A. He works in radio out there, and he's older than both of us. And he was there for the Rodney King riots in L.A. He was 16 years old when they were happening, and he said when those riots were happening, it was black people and it was minorities. That was it. There was no white people. It was if there was, it was somebody it was really rare. And he said the difference between the protests that are going on right now and what happened in 92 was look at the difference of people that are here that are done with this. It's everybody. It's like, and the other thing that is shocking about what's happening now is you look at the corporate dollars, you look at the messages from the corporations. It's like, okay, you know what? In 2016, it felt like, hey, we can't go all in on this anti-anthem thing, even though that's not what the message was. It was about, can we talk about police brutality? Can we talk about what's happening in the black community? It was hijacked by the whole, oh well, look, they're anti-anthem. They just don't like the country. They're anti-military, and it felt like at the time 2016, the sentiment was, yeah, you know what? I feel like most of the public feels that way. So corporations didn't release statements. You didn't get these big statements from anybody, And now you look at it and you go, freaking Legos and Paw Patrol and Nick are like putting out statements, and you're going, what the hell is happening? How did this shift in 4 years where now corporations see that, hey, a lot of people don't agree with the way the system was set up. And they're now going, okay, that's what the public sentiment is. That's another major shift, is that you've got corporate dollars pouring in now, and corporations aligning with the freaking message of the system is not, it's not fair to everybody, and there is injustice there. Guys, this is what everyone was saying 4 years ago. Welcome to the party. That's been fascinating to watch, is all these corporations and money that's coming in and the messages being sent out by them.
Yeah, and it's actually it makes things even more hopeful because
Mm-hmm.
when this first started, I remember I was working in a bank. I was a loan coordinator at a bank, and I was general manager of a nightclub as well. And you know, there was a much bigger contrast at that time. The naysayers were a lot more vocal, and there was a lot more of them at that time than there are now. Now I'm seeing, from my own personal friends group, when people are coming with the, oh, it's just more whiny prima donna celebrities saying, well, they're saying, no, dude, it's wrong. And more people are standing up, and that's part of that societal and cultural shift that I outlined in the letter. Is you can see it now. More and more people are shifting towards wanting to be on the right side of history. I shared something today because I've got people from my college reaching out to me saying, "Hey, you have a bigger platform than I do. This is kind of what's going on at the school right now. Can you say something?" And it was one of the attack officers made some inappropriate comments about everything that was going on, and yeah, my first thought was to post something inflammatory saying this was, but now my stance is more so just provide information. So I in my post today, I just said, hey, this is a little backstory on the school. This is how the cadets are expected to act. Why is this okay for the faculty to do things like this?
Mm.
Like, I'm open to a conversation about this. I'm not, I didn't say this dude should be fired. I didn't say any of that stuff. I said, I'm open to the conversation about this. I want to hear, what's going through this guy's head. And the guy reached out and messaged me. He messaged me right before the interview started, so I haven't had a
Mm-hmm.
chance to read it yet. But that's a big step as opposed to, I feel like 4 years ago, it's just been like, F you, you're being soft, you're being whiny, you got a discounted education, just be grateful and move on, as opposed to people willing to actually sit down and have these talks now.
Yeah, that's a big thing, man. It's look, it's far from being perfect, and I don't think it ever will be. It's just impossible, right? Like it's one of those things where you can chip away at this, and hopefully it will be perfect for everybody. But I look, the way the system is set up, it's going to take a long time. But the fact that we're finally moving in that direction, that's beautiful. But now we got to follow through with it. Like you meant, look,
Right.
we got to start voting, right? Everybody. Not it. This isn't just for minorities and African Americans. This is for everybody. Go vote.
Right.
Go express what you feel and see if you can make a change on the local level. Where you spend your money, that's huge as well, man. That's a big part of this. There's so many little things that can happen. Go volunteer your time. Go have a conversation. It's not going to just be one thing that solves all this, but you're going to have to take different steps and be comfortable taking those steps. That's another thing that everyone has to realize is we're going to have to do more. It's not just going to be one thing that changes all this.
Right. And it's not easy either. It's not like I can. John Jones is doing like kind of a community cleanup thing out here now, and I'm volunteering like my time towards that. I'm actually going to one of the little rallies today just to clean up afterwards and everything. But it's important to, you can talk it all you want to, but you got to walk the walk as well. You have to live it, and a lot of people don't do that. I could very easily just have written that letter and left it at that, saying, all right, I did my part. I'm not doing anything else. But no, I have a responsibility to these marginalized people. And if I belong to that group, and if I can express it to where, to a point or to a crowd that they couldn't otherwise get it exposed to, then like that's my duty, and it's what I have to do. Like, I personally am an anarchist. I don't like government. I don't like being told what to do. I don't feel like any grown individual can tell me better how to live my life than I can.
Mm-hmm.
but I still recognize the importance of letting that voice be heard, voting, doing this, and moving to progress. Because if I do nothing, if I'm neutral on that, because I don't agree with it, if I just sit back and don't participate, that only benefits the people that are already in power.
Hmm.
We need to change that. So, yeah, I have to do my part, even though I don't necessarily want to. And a lot of people have to do that. You have to suffer some inconvenience on this. It's not going to be easy.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Let's let's shift a little bit, okay?
All
Let's
right.
talk. I have a question for you because I was so fascinated by this. What was harder to accomplish, becoming an Eagle Scout or getting a computer science degree?
Ooh. I will say that becoming an Eagle Scout was harder to accomplish than getting my computer science degree. That's because though with the Eagle Scout, there's a lot more to it than just academic work. So on an academic front, yes, getting the degree was harder. But to become an Eagle Scout, I had to have so many hours of community service. I had to devise a community service project to aid in the community. I had to be on track. Like there was two merit badges that one rank that required a 30-day fitness thing, one that required a 3-month fitness plan and following through with it. And you know, I had to do so many camping trips, learning, getting a wilderness survival, like learning how to do all of that, and then you have to hold leadership positions in order to get that. It was rough.
Yeah.
That was tough for me. That was tough. But I took a 2-year break once I got to high school, and then my last 2 years, like I finished everything. I think a month before my 18th birthday, and I did the final evaluation for like a week before I turned 18. So that was
Damn.
that's a lot to ask someone under the age of 18 to do. So that was pretty hard.
Yo, you think you could like if you went on Naked and Afraid, you think you'd win it?
I don't know if I would win it, but I could do pretty well. I know I wouldn't die. So
No, yeah, I don't think you would die either. I think you could win it, man. I think because your survival rating would be pretty high because of your background.
right, right.
That's a man. Those shows. I always when I'm driving from Albuquerque to Santa Fe, I always play that game with whoever I'm in the car with. I said if I go 5 miles off road and I just drop you, okay, in the middle of nowhere, we're about 30 miles out from. Let's go 30 miles out from Santa Fe. If I just dropped you, do you think you could survive?
Yeah, I could definitely survive. I could
Yeah,
do.
I know you could. I don't think
Yeah.
many people could. What's been happening with your career, man? MMA. What's up next for you?
All right. So I recently signed with Aries Fighting Championship. They've only had one event so far. They are a European and African promotion. So all their stuff is overseas. I was scheduled to fight in August. I had just agreed to an opponent. I was going to fight August in South Africa, but COVID delayed everything. So now we're looking at late January for my fight, and they're working on legalizing everything, getting all the permits and stuff done for to bring MMA to France. So I should be on one of the first French cards out there
Dude.
whenever that's made. They sent me over an opponent. We agreed to it. Contracts probably will not be sent out until COVID and everything is done with. But yeah, things are going good on that front. I'm actually, for a lot of the online hate has been, back to the regional shows. It's not. I'm
Hmm.
fighting internationally now, and making a little bit more money. I'm getting a few more opportunities that I don't think I was going to be able to get for another 2 or 3 years with the UFC. So this is it's a really good step for me. It's great for building the brand. I get to expose my brand to a new audience. So I'm excited about that.
And then you're going to be in Albuquerque up until the fight, or are you coming back home?
You know, well, broke up with a girlfriend, so there's really not a reason to go back now.
Hmm.
I'm pretty much gonna just stay out here and grind. Obviously, if a family emergency comes up or something like that, I'll make time to go visit back there. I might visit Houston 2 more times before the fight, just for a couple days. But when I go there now, I don't even announce it. I just kind of show up, go to the old stomping grounds, go to my favorite coffee shops, and roll back out.
Are you training at Winklejohn? Is that where you at?
Yeah, I'm at Jackson Wink. It's
Oh,
the one right by downtown. Yep.
dude, what's that like, man? Because that's where John Jones is training as well. You got a bunch of just trained killers there. The energy must be unreal.
Yeah, it's different. And, it's kind of it reminds me of being back in a college wrestling room. It's just bringing that animal out every day. You take a day off, it's getting taken to you that day. So here, I don't get to do that, but it's fun, man. It's the first time in a long time. I look forward to going to class every day and just, pushing it every day, just, wrecking it out. I'm waking up now like, yeah, it's sparring day today.
Yeah.
I get to try all this new shit I learned last week. I'm excited about it.
So you're rolling with, I mean, you're practicing, you're rolling with other guys like MMA fighters, UFC fighters, right? It's not,
Right.
you're in like the more specialized program, obviously, where you got other trained killers with you.
Yeah, yeah. Most of my stuff is I go to mostly invite only stuff.
Okay.
I have five every day. I have a session with Greg Jackson. 3 or 4 times a week, I hit pads with Coach Wink, and that's a workout from hell. Coach Wink can go like just all day. Dude's in shape. I don't know how he does it.
Now, do you like when John rolls through? Do you guys kind of give him the business about what's happening, or do you guys not talk about what's happening on Twitter or what the dispute that he has with the UFC?
We don't really talk about it at all that much. The way we see it is, that's his personal business. If he wants to talk to us about it, he will. He doesn't. He doesn't. Most of my conversation with John are about food and women. So that's
There
what
you
we.
go, man. Dude, that's awesome. Juan, thank you so much for taking some time out, man. I really wanted to chat with you and learn a little bit more about the letter, learn a little bit more about your journey. And again, I encourage everybody to read it. It's in the description of this episode. You can find it and support Juan. He's a great dude. On Instagram at chosenjuan285. And again, you are open to the discussion, man. I love that. You want to talk to people, which is great. It's not just this is my way or the highway. So keep that up, man. Keep that and keep putting this great energy out there, brother.
For sure, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right, man. We will talk to you guys next time. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Thank you so much for listening.